Mhm.
What capacity is the green that you had to sort of at the root or the root or the
Okay. We're live. Okay. Do you want to do all the dandelion parts since we're here? Just maybe do a quick survey because that's maybe one of the more only confusing part about dandelion. It's got a lot of different parts that we could use. So we're going to start by talking about dandelion root, right? Taraxacum officinalis. Remember what officinalis means?
historically approved for use in pharmacies?
So this is historically an approved pharmaceutical species or right. Basically means it's been used so much historically, there's official pharmacy recognition that the early botanists just put it into the naming of things. So here we're talking about the roots, which can grow pretty deep, right? They can get pretty darn deep. What's the longest dandelion root anybody's dug in class? Because they usually pop off, like if you're trying to just pop them off, but
Carrot size for
a couple feet, yeah. Um, remember when Matthew Wood lived on his herb farm in Minnesota when I was in college? Went to see him once, and I pull up, and it's kind of like a little magical place. And here comes one of his apprentice with I kid you not, an entire wheelbarrow of dandelion roots heaped over the top and almost overflowing. And I'm like, uh, how long did that take you to dig? He's been digging for a couple days and part of his job or something, I guess. So, I mean, it was a lot of dandelion root. So you can also buy the little dandelion diggers, grandpa's dandelion digger. That's but it pops them off so you don't get all the way down. If you grow dandelions for harvest in raised beds, it's a lot easier to harvest them than in the compacted soil. But dandelion would be one of our great, what we call weed medicines. By weed, we don't mean marijuana, right? What do we mean by weed medicines?
planted the wrong place.
So these are herbs that most people call weeds and hate and use chemicals to treat them, prevent them from growing, but they are there everywhere. Why? Because we all need help, right? So most all the weed medicines are really some of the most powerful herbal medicines that we have. It's like nature's way of saying you need this, right? We all need this. We also find these things growing around disturbed soil, which is like nature's way that it heals the soil. These are like the first things that move into disturbed soil. So a lot of our common weed medicines are all the things we should be using for daily detox, right? Like the thistles and dandelion root and yellow dock root and burdock root and chickweed and purslane and a lot of these just green things, and we shouldn't be spraying them. The what's the one challenge with some of the weed medicines? There's a couple challenges with them.
Well, we need to make sure we don't get it from pesticides.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems is we see these growing everywhere, but they're usually growing in people's yards that are sprayed with chemicals or in parks where they're sprayed with chemicals or maybe right by a roadside ditch that has pollution and all kinds of things. So if you're going to go harvest it in the wild, it can actually be hard to find these things in a pristine environment that's not polluted because they also grow on like dumps and waste sites and anywhere the soil's been disturbed and trash has been buried, you'll see dandelions and things growing there.
How far do we consider the Los Hills from Omaha?
That's only half hour from here.
So that would
So
be nice.
yeah, yeah. So we can find these things everywhere. We can also, they're a problem because these are weeds, meaning we can grow them, but if we don't watch it, they are going to probably also take over your garden or yard. So like for dandelion, for example, we would just keep harvesting the greens so that flower is not allowed to go to seed. That's when it's really going to spread. Otherwise, we can kind of maintain it pretty well. So most of what we're going to be focusing on of dandelion is the root. That's the main part we use, but all the other parts are used that we'll maybe talk about briefly. So dandelion, action, or I guess energy. What's its energy? Cool to cold for the root. Drying, mildly drying, has a downward energy. It's drying, meaning we're going to use it for dampness. So swollen, inflamed, puffy tissues, like when our liver is inflamed or our intestines are inflamed, right?
Is drying a synonym to astringent?
Drying is not necessarily always astringent, but astringent would be a more extreme. So dandelion is not astringent, but it's drying. Because most of your, remember we talked about last week, digestive bitters, the bitter flavor is drying. But astringent would be an even more extreme example of drying. Astringent, everybody knows, is like where you bite it and it like it sucks all the moisture out of your body, your mouth. Okay. So assessment wise, what are some indicators as far as like hands-on assessment, like eyes, skin, nails, that makes us think we need a liver herb in general or dandelion? Yellow. What's yellow? Our eyes can get yellow. All right. We'll see why very shortly. Our skin can come yellow. That's worse, right? That means, you know, bile and bilirubin is really building up, right? We get jaundice. But even if our eyes are red, that's an indicator of inflammation in our liver. If our eyes are yellow, that's worse irritation with our liver. So they go red and then they get red and yellow. Our skin will start to get yellow, or what some people call sallow, like a yellowish, earthy kind of look about it. And then it goes to like yellow. I remember the first time I felt so bad. I was at this hospital in San Antonio, and there was like a jaundice patient I was going to go talk to, and I walked in the door and like I'd never seen somebody truly jaundiced, like as yellow as your top. And I was just like, I just yelled like, oh my gosh, like, and I think I like, they were from, I think they were Russian immigrants. There was a big language barrier, so thankfully I don't think I offended them. I don't think they knew what I was doing. Yeah. But I mean, her face was just as yellow as your sweater. And I was just like, whoa, I didn't know it could get that intense. And we'll talk about why that happens when we talk about bitters in the liver today. Okay. So the tongue we talked about last week with bitters, we'll go over that when we get into bitters again. Those sides are going to be puffy, and we're going to probably have more yellowish coating with the liver. Okay. What are the nails going to look like? Fingernails are going to have vertical ridges, right? Up and down ridges. The deeper the ridges, the deeper the notching, the more your liver is usually involved with digestion. These are only up and down, not other directions. Remember, just to review, fingernails that have a big dent going horizontal is your adrenals or hormones. It's totally different what we're talking about here. Okay. Okay. So dandelion, one of our most probably historical and prized there is like the liver herb, you know, historically in the Western tradition, this is it. You know, just like we said, hawthorn or linden, or like if there are like a heart herb per se that was most used historically and clinically, it would be hawthorn. But for the liver, dandelion is like the preeminent plant. So it's important we cover it because this can be used for almost any kind of liver digestive problem, stomach digestive problem, and just liver problems in general. So, and it's also, we're covering it in class because remember, it is a digestive bitter, so it's pretty gentle. I mean, you can take enough of it where it can cause some noticeable cleansing symptoms, but you have to do quite a bit, right? So maybe review what that looks like. So historically in really old herbals, this is sometimes called blessed eye medicine because the Europeans, although they didn't necessarily come out and say the liver and the eyes are connected like in Chinese medicine, they did use all the liver herbs are used for eye conditions. So this would be taking dandelion internally for all types of eye conditions. I would say this would be more so for things like eye inflammation, eye styes. This would be more for just chronic inflammation or pain, swelling in the eye, around the eye, red, irritated, kind of allergy eyes. But we wouldn't necessarily use dandelion for like blindness from diabetes or things like that. That would be a little bit different. But for like helping to slow glaucoma, this would be supportive. So really, anytime we look at eye health, we could think of dandelion or the liver. It is, whenever our liver is functioning properly, our inflammation levels going to go down. So historically, we talked about, well, I guess we haven't yet, but digestive bitters like dandelion are one of the main ways in the Western herbal tradition that arthritis, joint pain, joint inflammation is dealt with. The more we learn about how leaky gut creates a lot of arthritis and autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis and joint inflammation, I mean, it's similar to what the ancients figured out. We just have a newer insight into why that happens. So bitters and dandelion are really good for leaky gut. That's going to be the root of where a lot of people's joint inflammation comes from. Okay. That's why when people have arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, the next question after we ask about the pain is, how's your digestion? Right? How's your liver? How's your liver enzymes doing on a blood test? Okay. Okay. Digestion, this is where we have at least 100 uses of dandelion. So dandelion is going to lightly detoxify the liver. It's going to, as a digestive bitter, it's going to stimulate your liver to secrete and make bile. And it's going to help the gallbladder to release bile that's stored. It's also going to stimulate your stomach and your intestines to secrete digestive enzymes. And because it's a bitter, it's also going to make your mouth salivate. Remember, there's a lot of digestive enzymes in saliva. We're going to actually review that when we talk about bitters in a little bit. Okay. So bile, we said, is one of the main ways that your body creates bowel motility and rhythm. So we need liver bile and secretions to be optimal for our body to not be constipated. Likewise, sometimes diarrhea can be caused by the liver or gallbladder that's congested and creating a lot of malabsorption. So both diarrhea and constipation can sometimes be supported with dandelion. We'll learn today again too, because bile is how your body breaks down fats and oils. You know, one of the main questions we ask people is like, okay, you have digestive problems. If you eat fats and oils, do you get worse? Right? Do you get diarrhea from, you know, eating fried food, right? My mother, when she travels with us, I'm like, just don't eat grease, don't eat the grease. I know it's gonna happen, you know. And she, yeah, thinks it's just her digestion in general, but it's just as people age too, you lose the ability to secrete and store and make bile, so your ability to digest fat kind of goes down some too. So we always also ask people, do you have oil in your bowel movements? What does that look like, by the way? It usually floats to the top of the toilet water. It'll be like a slick, like an oil slick. It doesn't necessarily look like olive oil floating, but you'll just see like a slick on the oil on the top of the water. Okay. So we're going to use this for virtually, like we talked about bitters, any kind of stomach problem. Bloating, acid reflux, indigestion, low acid or high acid, either one, digestive bitters like dandelion are really good for. So in general, we're going to use it for every kind of like stomach digestive problem. So number 2 area is going to be the liver and gallbladder itself. So this is what we're going to do if you have a congested liver, or what's sometimes called a sluggish liver, or a sluggish gallbladder, where we talked about this last week, right? Where your ultrasound shows there's sludge in your gallbladder or liver. Or so this is what we're going to do to try to open up congestion or sluggishness in the liver and gallbladder. What's nice about dandelion is it's not super aggressive or strong. So we can use this for people that are a little weak. We can use this for younger children and adolescents, you know, in the appropriate dose. And we can use it with adults and elderly too. So this is what we're going to try before we give somebody like actual stronger liver, gallbladder, purging type things, which could be way too much for the average person. You know, one of the most classic combinations of all history, do you know what it is? Dandelion with, it's a carminative herb.
Ginger?
Those would all be good. Ginger and chamomile would be good. But the combination of dandelion with fennel seed is like one of the most classic 1-2 combinations ever. Because fennel is better for, it's a carminative, so it's better for gas and bloating and burping and hiccuping and that. So the two together are like just wonderful. It's, you know, anytime I would make a digestive bitters or a liver formula for a patient, even for children, that's going to be like the basis of it probably. Angelica, dandelion, fennel, those are just, and chamomile and ginger are also great to combine with that. We would add chamomile for people that have more nerve digestive stuff.
It take for this, for the first phase of this with the herbs to see a difference?
People should see at least like digestive improvements in a week or two. For people who are getting queasy after eating or after eating fats or oils, you know, one of the questions we ask patients too, because fish oil supplements are so popular today, a lot of people get very bloated and nauseous and loose stools from them. It's because the oil that's in fish is a little bit harder to digest and assimilate than the oil just from like olive oil or something. It's more downstream, it's kind of more processed. So we always ask people often, okay, you're having liver problems. Actually, we don't have people take fish oil supplements if they have gallstones or liver problems. That's actually contraindicated. A lot of people don't know that in the medical world. So in people that have fat absorption issues or gallbladder problems, we don't do fish oils because they can actually cause gallstones in some people. We can do flaxseed oil safely, though, right? We talked about that many times. So this would be different than eating fish because these are like the more concentrated processed oils. So this is good for people who are maybe on the edge of having their gallbladder removed, having gallbladder discomfort, that right-sided pain. These types of things will usually resolve that. If you look in textbooks, it'll say don't use liver or gallbladder cleansing herbs if somebody has an obstructed stone. You know, I asked many medical friends this question and ER doctors, how would you know you had an obstructed stone without, you know, an ultrasound or something? And they all said you would be in pretty severe pain. Like the pain would be very severe and you'd be vomiting and purging. And so, I mean, we usually don't have to worry that. So like if you have a client who's having like severe, like gallbladder pain, make sure they get it checked out before you try to cleanse it. But that's pretty rare. It's extremely rare, but every textbook will say that. So, okay. So this is what we do if you're having this gallbladder, liver, digestive issues. If you have liver inflammation like hepatitis, or a drug has damaged your liver, or maybe a vaccine side effect, or a chemical side effect, or farming chemical side effect. You know, I've seen all kinds of things. This is one of the main herbs we're going to do to cleanse and detoxify your liver. Gentle enough that you can use it for cleansing children too, without it being like too aggressive. This is also, you need to like triple star this. This is the herb we give people when they've had their gallbladder removed and they're still suffering, which is about, I don't know what the percentage is, but I would say it's about 80% of people that have their gallbladder removed still can't digest fats or oils. They get nauseous, queasy, bloated, diarrhea. They still have pain in the liver gallbladder area. This is kind of what we're going to do, kind of help them. It works really well for that too.
They take it and then like forever?
You would take it for a long period of time, but then after that, you would take it just for like a difficult to digest food, especially something fatty or greasy or oily. Okay. We could talk a lot about the liver, but we'll kind of cover a lot of this in the bitters. Okay. Because we said the liver is so involved in the process of seasonal allergies and food allergies, both. This is a staple for food allergies. This is a staple for seasonal allergies and chronic allergies, especially when people are on all kinds of medications and they're still suffering from allergies, right? They're on steroid spray, they're on Claritin and other over-the-counter allergy stuff, and they're still suffering. This is what we're going to do. Okay. It's also a little bit of a lymph spleen tonic historically. This also for the immune system, we had talked about with the liver that the liver does play a role in acute and chronic viruses. So we often end up using liver herbs like dandelion when someone's having a very difficult time getting over a virus, especially when you feel hot and sweaty and cold and clammy and go back and forth, what we call intermittent back and forth. we think about these liver herbs like this. We have also talked about the liver plays a vital role in all skin conditions across the board. Every skin condition, psoriasis, eczema, boils, acne, hormonal pimples, you name it. Allergic reactions that show up in your skin. This is going to be a vital herb long-term for skin health, especially good for acne, especially good. Dandelion itself.
Internal or external?
This is all internal that we've been talking about, but we could probably do something topical with it too. Like a poultice or something. Yeah. We're just, still talking about internally. Yeah. So it'd be the standard dose, like a cup of tea once or twice a day. 2 to 3 capsules, 2 to 3 times a day, just standard doses. 30 to 60 drops of a tincture 3 times a day. But now when we're talking about liver herbs or bitters, what about meals with dosing?
1 cup, 15 to 30 minutes before meals.
So ideally, in a perfect world, we want you to take this 15 minutes before you eat. So your liver, all your enzymes are already ready to go, right? It's like winter in Nebraska. You heat your car up, right? Even though mechanics say that's not good, we heat our cars up because when we get in them, they feel nice and warm and we're ready to go, right? So it's the same idea. By the time we even take our first bite, we're already have enzyme secretion going. Okay. What about, this is a good question. Do we have any Dandy Blend or anything right now? We got to order some of that. Yeah. I don't know if I've seen that for. So order that tomorrow. What about roasted dandelion root? Because this is a very important historical and very common thing to buy right now. What happens when we roast it, first of all? So when we roast it, we do reduce some of its liver cleansing and bitter enzyme producing property. However, they don't totally go away. So that could be a good thing or a bad thing, right? Like maybe somebody who's a little reactive, a roasted dandelion root tea is going to be a lot more mellow. So, and typically we roast them at about 225 for 30 to 60 minutes in the oven. And you just want to kind of like stir it occasionally. You just kind of brown them. We're not like charring them, we're just roasting them. When you do roast it though, it becomes very caramely and coffee-like. So it goes from bitter, like this kind of bitter, which is not too bad, right? To just even more coffee-like. So all of the herbal coffee substitutes are usually based on either roasted dandelion roots or roasted beet roots or roasted chicory roots. And in a lot of parts of the world, in Europe, and even like very common, even in like my understanding is in Louisiana, they're mixing coffee with still roasted dandelion and chicory. So, I mean, it has additional benefits. The cool thing about dandelion, how is dandelion different than coffee? So it's how we get a lot of people off of coffee because it tastes similar, the roasted roots. It's, what's that?
It's not acidic.
The main difference between coffee and dandelion is dandelion has no caffeine, but it's also alkalizing versus acidic. So it's a really good substitute, or maybe you have 1 cup of coffee and 1 cup of roasted dandelion root. The one that I use that I love that we're just out of is called Dandy Blend. It's my favorite blend. comes from Poland.
What's it called?
Dandy blend. We'll get some in and let everybody try it. It just tastes like coffee. That's really delicious. But a lot of other brands are decent. I mean, there's a lot of good brands. I think, I don't know if it was historical. I don't know. These would have been used as coffee substitutes at times, for sure. But I don't know the history of why they did that. Okay. Okay. One of the other weird uses for this plant that I have used is in dentistry. This is what we use for infected teeth. We use for when the roots are infected or when someone has a focal or a low-grade chronic infection or wisdom tooth are kind of infected. It for some bizarre reason, I don't know who figured that out. Matthew Wood taught me about it personally. I've used it time and time again when people have, taken like a antibiotic for their abscessed tooth. It goes away to the point where the dentist feels like it's not infected, but it still hurts and it's swollen and inflamed. So we can combine dandelion root with antibiotics for dental infections, and we can use it afterwards in people who have like chronic infections or maybe low-grade infections that aren't going away. Okay. Okay. So that is the root. Okay. The flower. How are we going to use the flower? So the flower we can do a lot of things with, right? The flower. Dandelion flower is a great wild green. You can eat the flower, right? Usually we pick the stems off, by the way, because they're very bitter. The flower is a really good source of beta carotene. It's really good for your eye health. It's very good for skin health, but it is liver cleansing. It's just very, very gentle, but you can eat it in wild greens. And you can also give people dandelion kisses, of course. But he knows what a dandelion kiss is. Oh, where you pick flowers and you rub on them, or you make a little heart or make little tattoos, because the yellow will rub off on your skin. It's like almost like a stain. Stays for a while. We did that growing up all the time. So the flower we would just eat, like there's the bear eating the flowers right there, if you don't think animals do that in nature, right? So the flowers are just a really good source of nutrition.
What is their nutritive quality?
They have mostly beta carotene and vitamin C, but I'm sure they have trace amounts of other nutrients too. But they are liver cleansing. The stems, the third part, is a little bit more aggressive. The stems are a purgative that are very much used historically. So if you're going to harvest dandelion root or leaf or flower, usually we don't include the stems. So the stems, we usually tincture them fresh, and it makes the stems have this latex-like compound that some plants have that is excellent for burning off moles and warts and things like that. So we would tincture the stems fresh. There is a European tradition. I've never did this. One of the few things I've never did. There is a European tradition where you eat 10 stems a day for 1 to 2 weeks to purge your liver, gallbladder, and body every spring. I don't know how strong that is. I'm willing to bet it's probably pretty stout. The stems are also used for gout historically. A lot of evidence for that.
Internally.
Internally. But topically, we would use it for warts and freckles. Also used for freckles and that. But freckles are cool. We like freckles, right?
Yeah, everybody thinks freckles are cool.
Okay. So the stem is a purgative because when we break it, it's very white and latexy. When we do herb walks, we'll see when nature does that, it's kind of like a sign. Usually this is a purgative. So purgative means it's going to purge your bowels. Sometimes it means it's so cleansing to your liver that all that lot is going to come out right into your bowels and it's going to move right away. Sometimes it's because it could have like a laxative like effect too. So, but it is a purgative. Okay. And then we also have the greens, which we should all be eating, right? These are the leaves. And when you buy them from like a lot of organic seed places, these leaves are a little less bitter than a lot of the wild growing versions. They're also bigger and nicer and fancier and easier to harvest. So when you buy these from like organic seed places, it's a little bit of a bigger, more mellow leaf than if you just went in your yard and ate them, which you can do.
But the reason they get bitter is after the flower, so you eat the leaves before they flower.
Yes.
After they flowered, don't eat them.
So you eat the leaf before the flower.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah. Because once it flowers, all that stuff is going to change in the rest of the plant. So she's saying that if you're going to harvest the leaves, you harvest them before it flowers, which will be in about a month.
Or it's already happened.
Is it?
Something.
Mm-hmm.
Because the flower is what's bringing in all the nutrients from the sun or whatever.
Mhm.
And the roots.
So dandelion greens are going to be one of our most historical wild green, like wild greens where people would eat. This would be like the lettuce that they would have because they wouldn't have probably grown much lettuce back in the day. This would just be eating wild greens everywhere, right? So dandelion leaf is one of the most nutritious things you can put in your body. It's filled with, I can try to find a vitamin mineral profile, but it's almost like a small multivitamin mineral capsule. Cooking doesn't seem to really injure most of the compounds that much. And all the green leafy vegetables like collard and kale, most of the constituents are pretty heat stable. So chard would be the same. So you can stir fry them. You can eat it as a salad green. Medicinally, how do we use the leaf other than for nutrition? Remember, multivitamin minerals, these are very processed. It's only in the last 30 years that we even have them. So what did people do before? We had multivitamin mineral processed pills. We had what were called like food vitamins, which were like chickweed and dandelion and violet and nettles, and you just took them as a capsule or tea or alfalfa and all these things. So we didn't, historically, we never had access to processed B1, B2, B3 zinc, so we had to get them all through their food or plant sources.
But before they were more powerful, like they had more vitamins and minerals.
They would have probably had more vitamins and minerals because the soil was less polluted and.
You help assimilate the nutrients.
Mhm.
I will bring in so much purslane for you all.
Parsley?
Boxes and boxes.
Oh, broccoli.
It's big
Purslane.
in our garden and
Purslane.
in our greenhouse, so we never plant them, we just get it all over our.
Oh, I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When I go through weeding, I have a purslane day. And I just pull it all out. I can only make so much salad.
So one of my favorite mountain men that I read historically, his favorite recipe was dandelion greens with fat from an animal, like bear fat or something like that, that you cook them with. So a lot, a lot of Southern cooking is gonna have a lot of greens with some kind of oil or fat or something too. There's a whole, or bacon or pork fat or yeah, or ghee. But medicinally, liver or medicinally, dandelion greens do cleanse your liver, but they're more gentle than the roots. So if we have a patient who is really sensitive and we want to maybe just try something a very little bit cleansing for their liver, this is a good start. It's more of like a food for the liver, so it's more gentle. And we also know it's a food. We can eat large quantities of it, so we're not going to be worried about somebody taking a capsule of it or a little bit of tincture, right? The other way we use it too is that it is a what we call an aquaretic. What does this mean?
Ingredient?
So aquaretic, I don't know if this is a medical term or I don't know if a certain herbalist invented, I don't know where this term came from, but it means that this is a electrolyte sparring diuretic. So meaning we can take it as a mild diuretic. We're getting fluid off the body, but it does not deplete your electrolytes like potassium, like drugs will do. Is it as strong as like prescription diuretic? It's not, but I mean, it still can be very helpful. So we use this a lot. It could be anything from when women retain water during different phases of the menstrual cycle. It can be when people retain water from eating salt or just a poor diet, or just kapha people or damp people who just retain a lot of water every day. We use it when people retain water from taking steroids. It got popular in America because in the bodybuilding and fitness contest world, it's used. Dandelion's different than a diuretic because it pulls the water out between your muscle and skin. So when bodybuilders and women fitness contestants take this because it makes you look more vasodilated. It makes your muscles and your veins pop out and you look like thinner than you are because it drains that water out. So it's used a lot to make your six pack come in better. If you have, we all have a six pack somewhere under here, right? But it's just some people have more developed than others. But it's used by a lot of that purpose. But we use it more for cleansing the kidney and bladder. And it is good for just pulling fluids off. And it's healthy, right? We're not damaging anything. Okay. That's the main way we use the greens in the modern clinical time. That used to be a really highly secretive use of it too, that a lot of these, I don't know if you know how much people that are like professional bodybuilders and fitness, how much they pay people ridiculous amounts of money to tell them what to eat every day and critique them in the mirror and have little secrets like this. I mean, they charge like hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour a day to just rip people apart, basically. So enough about that industry. So questions on dandelion root roasted? So it's kind of the opposite of the leaves, right? Usually the roots we like to harvest after the plant has flowered and went to seed. The problem is if we wait too long, everything's going to disappear. So we want to kind of at least know where it's at or be able to harvest it as the flower is going to seed or sometime in typically fall, or typically a lot of people say the first frost, but that is only if you know where those things are hiding at. Because sometimes you lose track of them in the wild.
Well, dandelions after the flower, what the moment after they flower, they turn into that kind of white ball and
Hmm.
they seed everything.
Yeah. And then a lot of times the leaves will disappear like in people's lawns and things. You can't really find them. So we want to harvest them before they disappear.
They pretty much lose their properties after.
Hmm.
The end of the season, plants send their energy downward into the roots, the
Okay.
perennial plants, and so that's when it's strongest. and gets-
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Did
in
we?
spring, they're pushing everything up for growth, which is why you don't harvest them now.
Okay,
Did
so
we
you-
talk about that? I don't know if we ever talked about that.
You harvest them right before.
We
they-
harvest roots after the plants have went to seed or in fall when all the energy of the plant
Okay,
goes
got it.
back to the
Oh, that
root.
makes sense.
Mhm. Okay, so
So there's like 3 different harvesting cycles with rhododendron.
there's 3, yeah, at least. Mhm. Okay,
Question.
Yep.
How long is, you said a long period of time to take the, for gallbladder after it's removed? What is a long period? It's like 6 months?
I mean, yeah, for like liver gallbladder problems, it might take 3 to 6 months or more. I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on how good their diet is too, and how much you're trying to counteract a bad diet.
The thing they talk about all the time in Ayurveda is it took you 20 years to get into this problem, so.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's close up that recording, and I want to go to a